the basic aspects or basic dimensions of social systems, yeah, of societies, of all kinds of relationships among human beings. And therefore I think targeting at life skills mentioned in this document by the World Health Organization is an important guideline for schools to create learning environments. Next one. These are the sustainability goals by the United Nations. They were published just recently and so on. And I will briefly mention those sustainability goals. But first of all, I will show a little film. Can you please go on? Can you go to the film which is called Indonesia? It's the first. Right. This will present a school.
Darwiyati is grateful that she can give back to the school that gives so much to her family and community. The school also has a strong international appeal, with parents from around the world moving to Bali to give their children this progressive educational experience.
The reason we came to Bali was driven by the kids originally, because John Hardy came to their school to visit, and we came to Bali, saw the school, and they said, wow, if we could actually ever study here, that would be a great thing. We have these integrated, what are called jalan-jalan thematic learning approaches, where you're learning actually how, from a beginning to an end, how a project works. You know, you're integrating economics, you're integrating biology, you're integrating different aspects of science learning and working with your peers and collaborating at a level we haven't seen before.
There's still plenty work in progress at the school, but Darwiyati truly hopes that green schools will be replicated in other parts of the globe.
Africa deserves to have this kind of education around the world, so that we can have more green leaders that we dream of.
Okay. Well, thank you. So this example, this tool shows how sustainable, a concept based on sustainability could be implemented or can be implemented in school. And therefore I think this is, when we consider the responsibility we have for future generations, and for the kids to become aware of what's necessary to preserve the environment, to preserve the nature, to preserve natural resources, and to create regenerative sources of energy. I think this is a good example. So, you can see photos of this green school again. And you might have noticed from the things that were said in the film, that they gave up traditional lessons and things like that and moved on to project-based learning. That means they're working on ecological, sustainable projects with the idea or the concept of sustainability. And I think this is another great step forward in developing education, or developing education. You might have heard, and I don't know if Leslie will mention that Finland, which is one of the highest ranking countries in PISA studies and so on, just abolished traditional subjects completely. They don't teach subjects anymore, but the students are engaging in projects which combine or integrate the subjects. And I think this is a big step forward. So let's move on. I would just mention those 17 sustainability goals to show you or to demonstrate which goals for the future we have to achieve to make life on Earth agreeable and sustainable for future generations. The first one is end poverty in all its forms everywhere. End hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. Promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, decent work for all. Build resilient infrastructures, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development. Protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainability management, forests, combat desertification and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. And the last one, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Those are the sustainability goals described by the United Nations. All countries consented on that. And I think, as you can see, those are really the important issues when we think about the future of life on Earth, the future of our children and everything. And as you can imagine, projects based on the idea of sustainability, it includes not all at the same time, but includes all those goals mentioned here. And as you can see from the example from school in Bali, yeah, it is possible to transfer this, to implement this in traditional or in the school and transfer it into learning environment. Okay, next one. Index on inclusion. I don't know if you have ever heard of this document. Do you know it? It's not an official document by the UN or World Health Organization. It was written by two guys from England, following the declaration against discrimination of students and people with disabilities. But it's such a powerful instrument. It was translated in many languages throughout the last few years. And I would just briefly mention and try to point out the importance of this document, because it's a tool. It's a tool for school development. It's a very practical piece. The things I mentioned before, the three aspects, they're very much value-based. But this one is a practical tool. This is a quote from the website of this Index of Inclusion project, which was initiated by the British government. And it says, the Index for Inclusion offers a supportive process of self-review and development as an alternative to one based on inspection, competition, and fear of failure. It provides an opportunity to develop a school in accordance with shared principles. And you can really take this index as a guidebook to transform a school to change a school from a traditional school into an inclusive school, limits of the full range of inclusion, whoever and whatever needs to be included at schools. I think it's difficult for you to read, therefore I will tell you what's inside this book or what the content is. So inclusion in education involves, and this is directly from the front pages, or from the first pages from this index. And I think there are some very important points we should think carefully about it. Valuing, the first one, valuing all students and staff equally. And before I continue, I will say it again. This is a handbook, a guidebook, a book that you can use practically in everyday work at schools. Just open it up and see which changes are proposed there and which changes are can be made at schools. Second one, increasing the participation of students in and reducing their exclusion from the cultures, curricula and communities of local schools. I point this out a bit. Increase the participation of students in the cultures, curricula and communities of local schools. Yeah? And here we are at the basis of democratic and participative processes in schools, in classes, in the school community. This is the very point of this whole document. Number 3, restructuring the cultures, policies and practices in schools so that they respond to the diversity of students in the locality. Number 4, reducing barriers to learning and participation for all students, not only those with impairments or those who are categorized as having special educational needs. Number 5, learning from attempts to overcome barriers to the access and participation of particular students to make changes for the benefit of students more widely. And those viewing the difference between students and resources to support learning rather than as problems to be overcome. I read this again because viewing the difference between students as resources to support learning rather than as problems to be overcome. And this is a very, very important point in my opinion. Next one, acknowledging the right of students to an education in their locality. Improving schools for staff as well as for students, emphasizing the role of schools in building community and developing values and increasing achievement, fostering mutually sustaining relationships between schools and communities, and recognizing that inclusion in education is one aspect of inclusion in society. Those are the chapters of this book, this index of inclusion. And I think this is one of the most important documents for teachers that was published throughout the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, in my opinion. Yeah? Maybe it's if you take the second one, this Hattie study from Australia, where this guy Hattie, this professor, made an overview of all the studies who asked for good teaching. What makes up good teaching? So this is, you might know, this is very well known and being discussed all over the world. Those two documents are really important to develop schools practically in everyday life. Okay, let's move on. Learn how to see, realize that everything connects to everything else. So you might have noticed those documents and I've mentioned are somehow interrelated. Yeah, they all have some core ideas, or they share some core ideas, and therefore I think it makes sense to look at them as an integrated kind of one. Now I will come to this. How much time do I have left? Sorry, 20. Well, I'm almost finished, so we'll get some time for discussion. Maybe I talk too fast. Okay, but I will take some time to explain this. Goals, values, and competences. This is, so to say, the conclusion of what I said before. Yeah, I try to point out what are the goals we have to achieve or we should try to achieve when we are teachers, when we are creating learning environments, we're working in schools. Secondly, what are the values we have to represent or try to implement there? Or what the values are the foundation of teaching, in my opinion. And the third point, the competences. Which competences are necessary to do that? We will start with the first point, participation in decision making. This is one of the core aspects of democratic education. Yeah, that the whole school community, with all students, teachers, or staff, is participating in decision making. Yeah? The values behind this, or the value behind this is, or the values are equality and justice, and empowerment. And I missed out on one. I didn't write it down. But this is very important, in my opinion. It's self-determination. Yeah, I think this is one of the most important goals in modern societies, that each and every subject, each and every student, each and every teacher has the right to self-determine his or her life. What are the competences which are necessary to make this real, to implement this? Means invent and maintain democratic or sociocratic structures in the school. Yeah? Democratic is well known. Sociocratic is a pretty new concept, already mentioned before. It means that people try to consent on issues. Yeah? Goes one step further. Secondly, enriched learning environments. I was talking about learning environments, and we call this, or in the discussion, pedagogical discussion, is sometimes called enriched learning environments, which means there is a pedagogic idea behind it. We try to make it rich in a way that there are multiple options and offers to learn for the students. And what is the value behind, or what are the values behind enriched learning environments? I showed one of the first few slides mentioned the aspects or the dimensions of learning environments. Opportunities and equipments to learn for all. Yeah? So this is an inclusive idea. And what are the competences? Professional skills and tools for teaching. And these tools and professional skills should not totally, but should, because school has the obligation to teach children about the world, has to be content-based. Yeah? Not subject, but content-based. Third point. Healthy and supportive relationships. This is one of the most important goals mentioned in all the documents I mentioned previously. What are the values? Appreciation, respect, and understanding for each other, one another. And what are the competences? Practice of dialogic, nonviolent communication, and emphasized networking. Yeah. I don't know if you are familiar with the concept of dialogic teaching. This is a concept which was elaborated over the last, let's say, 15 years, mainly mostly in America, in England too, in the English-speaking world, so to say. That means that communication needs a certain qualities. Yeah, to really to get into to enter into a relationship. Yeah? And it's necessary that it's not unidirectional. This is a big problem, for example, in Germany, just to refer to my home country one time. I don't know if maybe you know that there once was this TIMSS study, a study, worldwide study on mathematics and science teaching, and they documented. They filmed the video type lessons in different countries, in Japan, in America, in Germany, and other countries, and they found out that the style of communication in classroom differs very much, so to say. And in Germany we have a big problem. We've got a kind of a unidirectional way of communicating. The teacher gives orders, and the students have to follow these orders, unidirectional. Dialogic teaching is basically the opposite, so that they are students and teachers on the same level. Yeah, that they enter into a dialogue, talk to each other, ask questions, answer questions, and so on, with full appreciation of each other. This is important, and nonviolent communication is a concept which was once described by Marshall Rosenberg, a famous American psychologist. Yeah, I think you're familiar with that, maybe. That means that it is necessary to avoid certain aspects of communication which easily violate the other person. And networking is, of course, important. As you can see, solutions for the future. We can see this all over the world in the industry and IT and so on and so on. And creative intelligence is networking intelligence. Yeah? And therefore this needs to be supported. The competence, of course, is to foster and create networks among students. Respecting human rights is the goal. Freedom, equality, justice are the values behind that. And the competence is awareness of and sensitivity towards discrimination. And there's so much discrimination which we're not aware of in school practice. For example, I think this applies to your country too, it applies to my country. Girls are structurally discriminated in science teaching, for example, yeah, because of gender concepts rooted deeply in society. So, respecting human rights, freedom, equality, justice, and the awareness of sensitivity towards discrimination. Next point. An eco-friendly school setting, this is the goal, and the values are sustainability and care for nature. And the competences are adapt sustainability goals, the ones I mentioned before, signed by the UN, to curriculum, and these should also be content-based, so to say. And there are these sustainability goals, these 17 goals, they mention the content, of course. And when you look at the concept of sustainable development, it includes economy, ecology, and society, and shows the connection between those dimensions. You can see that it's easy to connect those the goal and the values to content. Next one, promotion of life skills, what I mentioned before, is the goal. Values are personal success, self-fulfillment, and resiliency. And the competences are integrate body, senses, mind, soul, and spirit, and heart. I missed out on that, it was in this slide from this American high school. And relationship skills. Or promote, you can also say promote body, senses, mind, soul, and spirit. This is a holistic approach. Yeah, an approach that sees the whole human being, not separated into thinking and feeling and spiritual dimensions and so on. And last but not least, inclusive school setting is the goal. Avoidance of discrimination, equal rights. And the competences are non-competitive differentiation and a barrier-free school. As the competence is to create a barrier-free school or to create barrier-free learning environments. Those are, in my opinion, the things we should aim at, we should work towards, and be aware of the goals, always be aware of the goals behind that, or the fundamental principles of humanity behind that. Okay, so I'm at the end of my talk. I don't know how much time is left, but I'm fine with that. No matter the challenge, our kids will find a way. And when you take only a few seconds and try to imagine your own, the kids you're teaching, all of them, individually. Yeah? And I think this applies to all of our students. When we give them the space to unfold and to unfold their skills, as we saw in this video from Sugata Mitra, this Indian guy who's a professor in Newcastle, England at university, children will find their way. Yeah? They will find a way to learn what they need, what's important in their life. Yeah? And they have as far as I know this, and based on my experience, most of the kids, they have an intuition, what they need for their future, what's important for their life and for their future, and for their social well-being, personal well-being. And therefore, now I'm at the end of my talk, and I hope you liked it. Thank you very much for your attention.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions or points to be cleared out by Professor Michael Gebauer, you can raise in your questions and the mics will come towards you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Fascinating talk. I learned a lot in this lecture. It's very interesting, and in fact, I believe that this is the thing that we should do for our politicians, ministers, and all the sort of decision makers. Great. I just wonder now, listening to you, let me introduce myself. I am a medical teacher in a medical school. Mm-hmm. And so my interest is teaching as well, though I'm teaching in the university. I think this is all great. I mean, one major problem that we have in our country is this assessment. That's my estimate. I'm not educated in that sense. Assessment is the one that spoil everything. Spoil students, spoil teachers, spoil the system. My question is, now, I can see the vision that you have, I can see the sort of, whole sort of, approach the thing in education, but how do we sort of modify assessment or alter assessment so that we can sort of, have the balance? I don't know whether it's possible for us to give up that assessments. And the assessments are the one that is sort of, pulling our students, pulling our teachers, pulling our society, entire society, and spoiling our society. So, what is your sort of opinion?
Well, assessment, even in Germany or in some democratic schools, you can't escape from assessment. Yeah, that's a fact. So, we've got let me start from this point. We've got something like around 80 democratic schools in Germany presently. Even more? Sorry? 60? Less? Okay, 40, 50, something like that. And they've all got the same problem. Students have to go through this to an assessment to go to university. Yeah, or to get a certain kind of job or so, and so on and so on. And they work in this way, and at the end of the time when the students are in school, they in the last year or half year they prepare themselves for this assessment. Yeah, and this is not an ideal situation, and we are moving in even governmental schools. And I have close connections to the government from this county where I'm teaching. Even governmental schools are moving now into a totally different direction, which means self-assessment by the students. Yeah? So to say, they start at a very early age in primary schools with simple tools to make self-assessment. And that means the students have they will become aware of their skills, their competences, but also of the things they don't know yet or they're not good at, and where they have to improve. Yeah, but that makes it necessary that the teachers take their time to talk to the students, to explain to them, or to enter into such a dialogic situation where they talk to one another, and the students make the self-assessment and tell, okay, I see that I have to improve, do more math, and so on, and the teachers give a feedback to them. And I think because we have countries where this way of self-assessment is working for many years now. Those are Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and several other countries where you don't have any assessment until grade 10, for example, or you don't have assessment at all. So this is not an illusion, it's working, so to say. And to answer your question, I think we can't escape assessments presently. Yeah?
And then create competitors who do not sort of collaborate adequately. See, the working for collaborative while being competitive, we are sort of losing collaborative part gradually, and we are trained to lose collaborative part, and we are more competitors now. And then the assessments are sort of very low quality assessment, where recall is emphasized more than creativity. And there's no originality of ideas, and it's just what is required is to recall and copy, and there's low quality of assessment. So I believe that it's time for us to sort of think of this assessment and change the assessment. I think assessment is driving because of this competitive nature as well. So to even this our attitude aspect, some say that soft domains, you are hard.
Yeah.
It's not really sort of created because of our assessment. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking sort of this is what we should do, and what we have told us is the one that we should do, and then we should think of it and discuss how can we achieve. I think the people like Nguyen and sort of people that he put around bring together is the way forward to create this discussion, and so that whether we can influence these decision makers to do something more.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me mention two aspects concerning assessment. Okay, I think competition in general is not that bad. Yeah, but there are two things, outcomes we need to think about. The first one is, and this is a substantial problem in my country, assessment is used to divide and separate the children, separate those who will achieve whatever in life and will promote, and those who will fail. And I think this is the first one. This is for a society, this is totally insane, counterproductive, to divide all those students with their individual skills and competences into those who will succeed and those who will fail. Yeah? We need to change that. We need to give every child the opportunity to unfold his skills. Yeah? This is the first point. And the second point is, traditionally we contradict, or we see a contradiction between competition and cooperation. So we're thinking in the traditional system, competition excludes cooperation, and this is a tragedy. As you might have understood or got from my talk, and from the guy who, in the first video, for future societies, to solve the problems we are confronted with, ecological, technological, virtual artificial intelligence, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's absolutely necessary that students learn from an early age, in kindergarten, preschool, up to high school, to cooperate, to join intellectual forces and skills to create solutions. And traditionally, we use assessment, to prevent that. to make it impossible to cooperate on the same level. And I think these are the two dangerous points about assessment and about competition, or assessment based on competition. If we can avoid that, avoid this exclusion of collaboration, cooperation, and working together, and exclude this separation into success and failure in society. But we need to change, at least I'm talking about my country or the Western culture, okay? So we need to change our mindset totally concerning that, concerning success and failure. I hope it was okay for you.
Yes, Professor. Now, one question. I talk about this democratic way of classroom and democratic way of education. Now, when you consider the democracy and democratic way of education, the biggest challenge to the democracy is the inequality and social injustice.
Yes.
Right? That's the same thing we discussed that day also.
Yeah, right. That's the biggest challenge for society.
Yeah, social inequality and also the social injustice. You know, it's very clear. Do you agree that from the lowest level of our education, should the students be open to that? And the social injustice which make them suppress and which make them exploit beyond their control, but they should know that one day they should be ready, gradually they should be ready to overcome that one in a very democratic way, not in a very nasty way, but democratic way, how to face this and how to change that. The inequality, social equality and social injustice there.
Yeah.
So, do you agree that we should include into our democratic way of education system with the students?
Yes, if I get your question right, I hope I can answer to this. At least in my country, not in general, but here and there, and so but I know this from other countries, at least in Europe too. There's a kind of a revolution going on. Even children at the age of 1 or 2, or let's say 3, when they are in the kindergarten and when they get there, those institutions they are developing programs how to offer opportunities for those tiny children to participate. What can they make decisions on their own? Yeah, how can they decide what to do? There was a funny example I read just recently. There was a discussion about the kindergarten for children from, let's say, 1.5 to 3 or so, and they invented the practice that the kids had the opportunity to decide which nappy, regarding to colors, which colored nappies they can choose. The red one, the pink one, whatever, so to say. And there was a big discussion in Germany, going to the press. Does it make sense to ask 2-year-old children, which color would you choose today with nappy? So some people said this is crazy. People at that age, they can't decide. Why do they ask them? And others said that's the right. We need to start at that point. And I'm totally convinced. My youngest son is 2.5 years old, and I've got 3 older children, much older children. They were. I'm developing constantly because I'm constantly working on things like that. And my older children, they are really well off in life, so they're very successful and so on. But I raised them totally differently from the way my youngest child now grows up. And we started at maybe you share this experience as early as possible to let him decide what he wants. And I don't know how many of you have children, young children or children at that age. Children at the age of 1 or 1.5, they definitely know what they want. And if we let them, then we can, so to say, step by step, let them grow and evolve and become citizens and persons who are able to change the society. This is one point. Yeah, so to say, and I'm totally convinced this is the right way. This is the way we should go. So we start at a very early age. But as I said, on one of the very first slides, children need to practice decision making. Need to practice participation whenever possible. And schools are ideal training grounds for things like that, for participation. And I would like to mention one last point. Maybe I'm over the time, right? I've got some time. This is because all my students will become teachers later on when they finish university. And I was a teacher myself for so many years. And one thing we sometimes forget, or I think at least in my country, I'm doing a lot of teacher in service training, and I noticed that not so many teachers are aware of that. That is how much this affects our own well-being. Yeah, when we create a school community based on dialogue, based on participation, based on democracy, this affects our own well-being. Yeah? How exhausting is it as a teacher every day from Monday to Friday or maybe to Saturday, so many hours to continuously put pressure onto children or order them what to do and so on and so on. It's even for teachers, it contributes to our health, to our well-being, to our positive feeling and positive thinking, to let things go and just give a part of the responsibility for their learning to the children. Yeah? And that is what and then maybe I visited 2 schools now, and from all what I saw in Sri Lanka right now, I get the impression that you are pretty much relaxed. Yeah? So this is what I see, and Germany or Western culture is so different from that. We are under so much pressure, continuously. Pressure to succeed in life, pressure to get a good job, pressure to make ends meet and so on and so on. And this pressure affects the health of the teachers too. We have got the highest rate of burnout, the highest rate of going early into pension or early in Germany from all professions. Those are teachers. And I think this is an important aspect to it. It is such a relief to let things go and cooperate and try to realize things I try to find out. Good? Any other questions? I hope I answered yours. Was it okay for you? Okay, so thank you very much. It was a great pleasure for me. It was a great pleasure. It still is a great pleasure to visit you and see and experience your country. It was such an impressive experience for me to visit the schools. Your school, and your school, of course. So, and the one we saw, the preschool, we saw Lekandi. It's so impressive for me, and I hope I contributed a tiny little bit to your whatever kind of understanding of teaching and learning and democratic practices. Thank you very much for your attention.